He wasn't supposed to be in my world, and yet there he was, standing in my apartment doorway like he belonged there. My hands shook as I opened the door, and I tried to hide it by pulling my sweater tighter across my chest. I didn't know what was worse, the fact that Nathan had shown up without warning, or the fact that I wanted to see his face, even though my heart still stung from the night on the rooftop. The hallway light cast shadows over his jaw, sharp and unreadable. For a moment, it felt like the city outside had gone quiet just to listen. He didn't step inside right away. He just looked at me, and I hated that I still felt something even after everything he had done. "Claire," he said softly, almost like a question. I told myself not to answer, not to let him in, not to let him breathe the same air as me. But my mother's voice drifted from the living room, calling, "Who's at the door, baby?" And just like that, my choice was gone. I moved aside, and Nathan stepped into my small Chicago apartment. His expensive shoes clicked against the old wood floors, and I wondered if he noticed how they creaked, how the place carried echoes of a life far away from his towers of glass and steel. He wasn't supposed to fit here. Yet when he saw my mother, pale and weak from her treatments, he didn't flinch. He sat by her chair like he'd done it 1,000 times before, talking to her about books she loved, listening when she told him stories about Ohio, even laughing when she teased me in front of him. It was disarming, how natural he was in this space, how he didn't look like a billionaire here but just a man who remembered what family felt like. I stood in the doorway, watching. The man who had humiliated me in front of an entire city was now leaning forward, holding my mother's fragile hand with both of his. And she was smiling. The questions ran wild in my head. Was it all an act? Another performance like the rooftop? Or was there a piece of him that had been real all along, hidden under the weight of money, lies, and whatever secret he thought was worth more than me? When he finally turned to me, his eyes softened in a way that almost broke me. "You never told me she had your smile," he said quietly. I wanted to scream at him, tell him he had no right to notice things like that, no right to come into my home and make it feel like he belonged. But the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I busied myself with dishes in the kitchen, banging them louder than necessary, praying the noise would drown out the way my heart betrayed me. That night, after he left, my mother leaned close, her breath warm against my ear. "He sees you, Claire," she whispered. "Not just what you can give him. Don't throw that away too quickly." I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment. Did he see me? Or was I just another pawn in whatever game he was playing with his empire? The city lights outside blinked through my blinds, but I couldn't shut my eyes. My chest ached with the weight of wanting answers I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. And when my phone buzzed on the nightstand, lighting up with his name, my hands hovered over it, frozen. Do I answer him? Do I let him back in? Or do I cut him off before he destroys me completely? Rain poured hard that night, hammering against the city like it was trying to wash something away. I stood under the narrow awning outside the community center, hugging my jacket to my chest, praying the storm would let up long enough for me to make it home dry. That's when I saw him again, Nathan, of all people, leaning against the brick wall like he'd been waiting. I wanted to turn and run, but the rain had already trapped me. He caught my eyes, and even in the dim glow of the streetlight, I saw that same intensity he carried at the rooftop. Only this time, it wasn't surrounded by champagne glasses and photographers. It was raw, unshielded. "You still come here?" he asked, nodding at the building. His hair was wet, dark strands sticking to his forehead. He didn't look like the man who graced magazines, didn't look like the billionaire everyone envied. He just looked human. "I volunteer," I said flatly, pulling the jacket tighter. It's what people do when they don't have empires to run. He smiled faintly at the jab, though it didn't reach his eyes. For a few moments, neither of us spoke. The rain filled the silence, pounding harder, soaking the streets until the lights blurred into smudges of gold and red. When the wind pushed us closer together under the awning, our shoulders touched. It shouldn't have meant anything. It was just rain, just shelter, just physics. But my body betrayed me. I felt a rush of warmth where his arm brushed mine, and my breath caught. He noticed. Of course he noticed. Without a word, he shrugged out of his coat and draped it over my shoulders. I wanted to protest, to shove it back into his hands, but the weight of it pressed me down in a way that felt safe, dangerous, and confusing all at once. "You shouldn't be here," I said finally, keeping my voice low. "Neither should you," he countered softly. "But maybe that's the point. Maybe we're both standing where we're not supposed to be." The storm grew louder. Cars hissed through puddles. And in that moment, the city felt suspended, like it was just him and me, and all the unspoken words crackling between us. His hand brushed mine. Accident. Or maybe not. Either way, it sent a shiver up my arm, and I hated myself for how much I didn't pull away. "You still don't trust me," he said, his voice almost swallowed by the rain. "Why should I?" My words were sharp, but they cracked at the edges. "Because I've never lied about how I feel about you," he replied. I turned to him, anger rising hot in my chest. "You humiliated me in front of everyone. You turned my anniversary into a nightmare. And now you want me to believe you." His jaw tightened. "I wanted to protect you. You think I enjoyed standing there, tearing you apart? You think I didn't hate every second of it?" The storm swallowed the space between us. I wanted to demand answers, to make him explain, but something in his tone stopped me. He wasn't begging. He wasn't making excuses. He sounded like a man cornered by his own choices, suffocating under them. I shook my head and turned away, staring at the flood of water rushing down the street. "You don't get to protect me, Nathan. Not like that. Not by breaking me first." His silence was heavy. I expected him to argue, to push, to say something that would make me feel small again. But instead, his voice dropped low, steady. "I can't stop thinking about you." The words hung there, suspended in the storm. My breath caught, my heart slamming against my ribs. I wanted to tell him to stop, to leave me alone, but the truth was written across my face, and he saw it. Before I could answer, my phone rang. The screen lit up with the hospital's number, and dread slammed into my chest. I grabbed it fast, nearly dropping it in the rain. "Miss Cooper," the doctor's voice came through, clipped and urgent. "It's about your mother. You need to come now." The sound of my heartbeat drowned out everything else. Nathan was still standing there, close enough to touch, but his presence faded as panic took over. The city blurred, the storm became nothing but background noise, and the only thing that mattered was the voice in my ear telling me that time was running out. I didn't look at him again. I bolted into the rain, coat falling from my shoulders, feet splashing through the flood. His voice called after me, but I couldn't stop. Not now. Not when my whole world was hanging by a thread. And somewhere behind me, in that storm, I knew he was following. The hospital smelled like bleach and worry. I rushed through the sliding doors, my shoes squeaking on the polished floor, hair dripping rainwater down my back. My chest was tight, every step heavier than the last. The receptionist barely finished pointing before I was sprinting toward the ICU. I found my mother lying in a bed that looked too big for her, machines beeping in slow, steady rhythm, wires taped across her frail arms. My throat locked up. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. She had always been strong, stubborn, the woman who could fight a whole town with nothing but her voice. But now she looked small, like the storm outside had carried her here and left her broken. "Mom," I whispered, gripping her hand. It was warm but weak, trembling under my touch. Her eyelids fluttered, just enough to let me know she heard me. The nurse murmured something about complications, about tests, about how they had done everything they could tonight. I only caught pieces. The words slipped past me, drowned out by the pounding in my chest. Then I felt him. Nathan. Standing in the doorway. He didn't come closer, didn't say anything, just stood there like he didn't belong but couldn't leave either. His presence was a shadow pressing against my back. I wanted to scream at him to go, to stop invading every corner of my life. But I couldn't, because some dark part of me was relieved he was there. The nurse left. The silence stretched. I smoothed my mother's hair back, trying to steady my shaking hands. "She doesn't need to see you," I said finally, my voice low but sharp. He stepped into the room anyway, slow, deliberate. "I'm not here for her. I'm here for you." I laughed bitterly, though the sound cracked in my throat. "You've done enough for me, Nathan. Haven't you ruined me enough?" His jaw tightened, but he didn't fight back this time. He came to the other side of the bed, standing opposite me, his hands shoved into his pockets like he was holding himself back. "I never meant for it to go that far," he said quietly. "I thought I was protecting you from something bigger than either of us. But I see now, I was wrong." I shook my head, staring at my mother's frail face. "You think words fix this? You think I can forget the humiliation, the lies, the way you dragged me into your world just to watch me burn?" His eyes softened, but there was steel underneath. "No. I don't think you'll forget. I don't think you'll forgive me either. But I think you still feel something when I walk into a room. And that's the problem neither of us can solve." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because he was right. Even now, in this room filled with antiseptic and fear, the pull between us was there. Dangerous. Unwanted. But real. The sound of my mother coughing broke the moment. Her eyes opened wider this time, and she rasped my name. I leaned closer, clutching her hand. "I'm here, Mom. I'm right here." Her lips trembled. She tried to say more, but her voice was barely a whisper. I bent down, straining to hear. And what she said froze me to the floor. "Don't trust him." I jerked my head up, eyes wide. She was staring at Nathan, her gaze sharp despite the weakness in her body. Her words were fragile, fading fast, but the warning was clear. Nathan's face didn't move. He didn't flinch, didn't protest, didn't defend himself. He just stood there, watching me, his eyes unreadable. My mother's grip weakened in mine, and her eyelids drifted shut again, machines humming steady but fragile beside her. The nurse rushed back in, adjusting wires, muttering something about keeping her stable. I stepped back, heart pounding, head spinning. I looked at Nathan, my mother's warning echoing in my skull like a drumbeat. "Don't trust him. Don't trust him." And yet, when the nurse asked me to step out, when the hall swallowed me with its cold white walls, I found him still at my side. Too close. Too steady. I turned to him, anger boiling under my skin. "What aren't you telling me?" He held my stare for a long time. Then, finally, he said, "The reason I humiliated you that night, it wasn't to destroy you. It was to keep someone else from getting to you first." The words knocked the air out of me. My body went rigid. "What do you mean?" I whispered, barely able to push the sound out. But he didn't answer right away. His eyes flicked to the end of the hallway, where two men in dark suits had just stepped off the elevator, scanning the corridor like predators. Nathan's jaw clenched. His hand brushed mine, urgent this time. "We need to go. Now." And before I could demand answers, before I could even think, he pulled me toward the stairwell, leaving the hospital lights, my mother's warning, and the storm of questions crashing behind us. The stairwell smelled of rust and dust, the kind of place people forgot existed in hospitals built to look spotless on the outside. My shoes clattered against the concrete steps as Nathan pulled me down 2 flights, his grip tight, his pace relentless. "Slow down," I hissed, yanking at his hand. "You can't just drag me out like this. My mother is upstairs." He spun on the landing, chest rising and falling, eyes burning. "If you stay here, you won't be able to help her. Do you understand that? They'll use her to get to you." "Who?" My voice cracked. My lungs ached from running and from panic. "Who are you talking about? What are you hiding from me?" He hesitated, jaw working, like he was chewing words he couldn't swallow. Then he said it, quiet, deadly. "My family." The sound of it twisted my stomach. His family. The untouchable dynasty that controlled half the city's skyline, the name that opened doors and shut people out in the same breath. The same family who had smiled in magazines while hiding rot beneath their designer suits. "You humiliated me because of them?" I asked, disbelief coating every word. "You destroyed me just to keep them happy?" "No," he snapped, stepping closer. His hand braced the wall near my head, trapping me in his urgency. "I humiliated you because they were watching. Because if they thought you mattered to me, really mattered, you wouldn't be standing here right now." I froze, heart pounding. His words didn't land the way he wanted them to. They didn't feel protective. They felt like a confession wrapped in barbed wire. "You think that makes it better?" I whispered, voice trembling. "You think breaking me in front of the world is some twisted version of saving me?" His face twisted with something raw, almost broken. "It was the only way." Footsteps echoed above us. Heavy, deliberate. The kind that didn't belong to nurses or patients. Nathan's eyes flicked upward, his whole body going rigid. He grabbed my hand again, and this time I didn't fight him. We burst through the exit door into the alley behind the hospital. Rain still poured, drenching us instantly, plastering my hair to my face. The alley smelled like oil and wet trash, neon lights flickering off puddles. Nathan pressed me against the wall, shielding me with his body as the stairwell door banged open behind us. 2 men stepped out, same dark suits I'd seen before, their eyes scanning fast, sharp. My pulse roared in my ears. Nathan's lips brushed my ear, his whisper rough. "Don't say a word." The men paused. One lit a cigarette, the glow casting his face in sharp shadows. The other scanned the alley, his gaze sliding past us, almost landing, then moving on. I held my breath until my lungs screamed. Nathan didn't move, didn't even blink. The world shrank to the thrum of blood in my veins and the weight of him pinning me still. Finally, the men walked on, their figures swallowed by rain and neon. The stairwell door slammed shut. Silence returned, heavy and suffocating. I shoved him away, my voice sharp with fury and fear. "What the hell is going on, Nathan? Why are men in suits hunting me in a hospital?" He raked a hand through his wet hair, water streaming down his face. "Because you got too close." "To what?" My voice rose, cracking in the storm. "To you." "To the truth," he said, and the way he looked at me made my stomach twist. I wanted to push, to demand details, but he caught my wrist again, softer this time. This isn't safe. Not here, not now. If you want answers, you have to trust me tonight. Just tonight. My mother's warning echoed in my chest. Don't trust him. Her voice was still there, fragile but fierce. And yet here I was, in a rain-soaked alley, letting him pull me deeper into a world I didn't understand. His car was parked at the curb, sleek black, windows tinted. He opened the door, waiting, eyes locked on me like he knew this was the moment everything hinged on. I hesitated. My breath shook. The rain plastered his shirt to his chest, outlining every muscle, but his expression was raw, vulnerable. Not the man from magazines, not the ruthless heir. Just Nathan. And that was somehow worse. I slid into the seat, my hands trembling against the leather. He slammed his door shut and the engine roared to life, headlights cutting through the storm. We drove in silence, the city rushing by in streaks of light and water. My thoughts screamed over each other. My mother's face, those men in suits, his family's shadow stretching long and dark over us. Finally, I broke. Where are we going? His grip on the wheel tightened. His eyes stayed fixed on the road. Somewhere they can't find you. The way he said it sent a chill crawling down my spine. The car turned off the main road, down a narrow lane lined with old warehouses. The rain eased to a drizzle, fog curling around the streetlights. He pulled into a gated lot, the steel barrier groaning open like it hadn't been used in years. Inside was a warehouse, plain, unmarked. He killed the engine. Silence dropped heavy again. I stared at him, fear clawing at my chest. What is this place? He turned to me, and for the first time, there was no mask, no shield. Just the raw truth bleeding through his eyes. It's the only place I can tell you what really happened. I swallowed hard, throat dry, heart thudding like a drum. And once you know, he added, voice low and steady, there's no going back. The warehouse door creaked open on its own. A figure stepped into the light. And it wasn't his family. It was someone I thought I'd lost forever. The door of the warehouse groaned open, and my breath stopped cold. The figure stepping into the light wasn't Nathan's family. It wasn't some faceless threat in a black suit. It was Eric. Eric, the man I buried 3 years ago in my heart. The man I thought I'd never see again. My voice cracked, shaking. You're supposed to be dead. His smile was faint, almost apologetic. Rainwater dripped from his jacket as if he'd been standing in the storm, waiting. I was supposed to be. But they don't let people like me stay gone. I stumbled back, my shoulder hitting Nathan's chest. My body wanted to fold, but Nathan's hand steadied me, too firm to ignore. I turned on him, fire in my throat. You knew he was alive. Nathan didn't flinch. His jaw tightened, eyes fixed on Eric. I knew pieces. I wasn't sure until tonight. Eric's eyes flicked between us, reading the unspoken current, and something dark glimmered there. So this is the man who broke you in public to save you in private. Interesting choice. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe right. My mother's warning rattled inside me, the hospital machine still echoing in my head, and now this, Eric alive, standing in front of me like some cruel twist of fate. I stepped forward, my voice trembling. Why? Why didn't you tell me you were alive? His face hardened. Because if I had, you'd be in the ground next to me. And that's exactly what they wanted. The storm outside rattled the warehouse walls, but the real storm was inside me. Everything I thought I knew had been split open. Nathan's betrayal. My mother's warning. Eric's resurrection. The ground under me felt like it was gone. Eric stepped closer, lowering his voice. You need to understand something. Nathan isn't the enemy. His family is. And the night he destroyed you, that was the only way to keep you out of their reach. If he hadn't, you'd already belong to them. I turned to Nathan, fury and confusion tearing through me. So, it's true. All of this. You destroyed me on purpose. Nathan met my eyes, rain still dripping from his lashes, and for once, he didn't look like the man who always had control. He looked wrecked. Yes. The word shattered whatever was left inside me. My hands shook, my chest burned, and before I could stop myself, I slapped him hard across the face. The sound echoed in the warehouse, sharp and final. Nathan didn't move. He didn't fight back. He just stood there, the red mark blooming on his cheek, his eyes locked on mine like he deserved it. Eric stepped between us, voice sharp. Enough. You don't have time for this. They're already looking for you. Both of you. And once they find you, there won't be a second chance. The lights in the warehouse flickered. A hum rolled through the walls, too heavy to be the storm. Nathan's eyes shot to the ceiling. They already know. The sound of engines outside confirmed it. Black SUVs pulling into the lot, doors slamming, men's voices barking orders. Eric's hand gripped my arm, urgent. You want the truth? You'll have to survive the night to hear it. And before I could answer, the warehouse door blew open, light flooding in, shadows pouring through. We ran. The gunshots cracked like firecrackers, ricocheting off steel walls, sparks flying. Nathan shoved me down a side hallway, his body a shield, Eric firing back with precision that made me question who he'd really been before he died. The world became chaos, screams, footsteps, the pounding of my heart. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but the only thought in my head was, survive. We burst into a back stairwell, the metal steps rattling under us. Eric slammed the door behind us, locking it with a chain he must have stashed earlier. Nathan pushed me upward, his voice rough. Go. Don't stop. I stumbled up the steps, my hands gripping the railing slick with rust. At the top was another door, and Eric shoved it open, dragging me into the night air. The roof. Wind whipped hard, carrying the smell of smoke and rain. The city stretched below us, alive and glittering, unaware of the war happening above their heads. Men burst through the lower door, shouting, the sound of steel being cut. We had seconds. Nathan stepped in front of me, his body rigid, his eyes locked on the threat below. Eric crouched low, gun raised, calm as if this wasn't his first rooftop fight. I stood frozen, my whole life unraveling in the span of hours. My mother's weak voice telling me not to trust him. Eric back from the dead. Nathan confessing that destroying me was the only way to save me. And now, faceless men with guns climbing toward us. Eric fired. A man dropped. Another rushed forward. Nathan grabbed a loose pipe from the roof and swung hard, knocking one back over the ledge. And then it happened. One of the men lifted his gun, aimed straight at me. I didn't even have time to scream. The shot never landed. Nathan threw himself in front of me, the bullet ripping into his shoulder. The sound of his pain tore through the storm, and my knees buckled. He fell against me, blood soaking fast, hot and terrifying. I grabbed him, panic tearing me apart. No, 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 stay with me. Please. His eyes met mine, glassy but burning with something fierce. This is what I was afraid of. Eric dragged us back toward the edge of the roof, covering us, firing at the men who kept coming. My hands pressed hard to Nathan's wound, tears mixing with the rain on my face. "This is insane," I screamed. "Why me? Why are they after me?" Eric's jaw tightened as he fired another shot. "Because you're not just some woman Nathan fell for. You're the one thing his family can't control. And that makes you dangerous." My world tilted. My pulse raced so hard it felt like my veins would snap. The storm, the gunfire, the blood, it all blurred until there was only one question left, sharp and cold. "Who the hell am I really?" Nathan's voice, weak but certain, cut through everything. "You don't know, do you?" And then he went limp in my arms. Nathan's blood was warm on my hands, soaking through my fingers as I held him tighter against me. His eyes flickered, fighting to stay open, and for the first time, I saw no armor, no arrogance, just a man breaking in front of me. Eric dragged us behind a vent on the rooftop, bullets sparking against the metal. My heart pounded so hard it shook my whole body. "We can't stay here," he hissed, checking his ammo. "They'll corner us. I can't move him like this." My voice cracked as I pressed harder against Nathan's wound, desperate to stop the bleeding. "He's dying." Nathan's lips moved, his voice faint. "Don't let them win." I leaned down, shaking my head, tears spilling. "Shut up. Don't you dare talk like that. You're not leaving me here. Not like this." Eric grabbed my shoulder, pulling me up. His eyes were sharp, cold, but there was something softer underneath. "If you want him alive, we have to go. Now." The stairwell door burst open again, more men flooding onto the roof. I screamed as Eric fired, dragging me up by the arm while I clutched Nathan with the other. My body felt torn in half, my heart split between the man bleeding out in my arms and the man who refused to let me collapse. Somehow, we made it to the fire escape. Eric shoved me forward, covering us as we stumbled down rung by rung, the metal slick with rain. Nathan's weight nearly pulled me down, but I refused to let go. At the bottom, a black car screeched to a stop. For a heartbeat, I thought it was more of them. But the driver's door swung open and my breath caught. It was Ava, my best friend, the one person I thought I could still trust. "Get in!" she shouted, waving us toward her. I didn't think, I didn't breathe. I shoved Nathan inside, climbed in after him, and Eric slid into the passenger seat. Bullets shattered glass as Ava gunned the engine, tires screaming against the wet pavement. We tore through the city streets, rain streaking the windshield, headlights flashing past like ghosts. My hands never left Nathan, pressing, holding, begging. Ava's voice was tight. "Where do we take him?" Eric's reply was grim. "Not a hospital. They'll find us there." "Then where?" I demanded, my voice breaking. He glanced back at me, eyes dark. "The only place left. The one place his family doesn't control." We ended up in an old safe house on the edge of the city, hidden behind a crumbling church. Ava helped me drag Nathan inside while Eric cleared the rooms, checking for threats. The place smelled of dust and damp wood, but it was shelter, and right now, that was all that mattered. We laid Nathan on a worn couch. His skin was pale, sweat clinging to his hairline. I held his face in my hands, whispering over and over, "Stay with me. Please, just stay." Eric worked quickly, pulling supplies from a hidden cabinet, patching the wound with steady hands. Watching him, I realized this wasn't the first time he'd done something like this. He wasn't just a ghost who had come back from the dead. He was someone who had lived in the shadows long before I met him. Finally, Eric looked up, his expression hard. "He'll live. But he won't be moving for a while." Relief hit me like a wave, but it didn't wash away the fear still crawling under my skin. I turned to him, my voice low. "You promised me answers. Start talking." He hesitated, glancing at Ava, then back at me. "You're not who you think you are. And neither is he." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" Eric leaned closer, his voice sharp, urgent. "Nathan's family, they're not just rich. They're not just powerful. They built everything on blood. And you," his eyes locked onto mine, "you're the reason they're crumbling. Because you're not just some girl they can erase. You're the piece of the puzzle they can't control." The words cut deep, but before I could press him, Ava spoke, her voice trembling. "Tell her the truth, Eric. All of it." I looked between them, my heart pounding. "What truth?" Eric's jaw tightened. "Your father. The man you grew up believing died when you were a child. He didn't just die. He was murdered. By them. Because he tried to walk away." The room tilted. My chest seized. "No," I whispered, shaking my head. "That's not possible. My father, he had a heart attack. That's what they told me." "That's what they wanted you to believe," Eric said coldly. "But I was there. I saw it. And they've been watching you ever since. Waiting for the moment you'd get too close to the truth." I stumbled back, gripping the wall. My whole life, every memory, every story, I felt them all fracture at once. Nathan groaned, his voice hoarse, pulling my attention back. His eyes flickered open, pained but clear. "He's right." I stared at him, betrayal and heartbreak tearing me apart. "You knew. All this time, you knew." He nodded weakly. "I tried to keep you away from it. That's why I pushed you away. Because if they thought I cared, they'd use you. And now, they are." My knees buckled, the weight of it crushing me. The man I loved destroyed me to save me. The man I buried came back from the dead to warn me. And the family I thought was just his problem had murdered my father and put me in their crosshairs. Ava came to my side, steadying me. Her voice was soft but sharp. "So the question is, what do we do now?" The storm outside had faded to a drizzle, but inside, the war was just beginning. We didn't sleep that night. Eric laid out blueprints, old files, photographs of faces I recognized from headlines and boardrooms. Ava hacked into servers, pulling threads that led back to Nathan's family empire. And Nathan, pale but stubborn, forced himself to sit up, his voice steady despite the pain. "They won't stop," he said, his eyes locked on me. "As long as you're alive, as long as you know the truth, they'll hunt you. Unless we end it first." I shook my head, fear clawing at me. "You're talking about going against them? That's suicide." Eric's expression hardened. "Maybe. But it's the only way you get your life back. Otherwise, you'll spend the rest of it running." The weight of choice settled heavy on my shoulders. I thought about my mother in that hospital bed, her warning not to trust him. I thought about the life I lost the night Nathan humiliated me. I thought about the father I never really knew, taken from me by the same people who now hunted me. And I realized there was no choice at all. "I'm not running," I said, my voice low but certain. "If they want me, they'll have to face me." For the first time, Nathan's lips curved into something like a smile. "Then we fight." The night of the reckoning came fast. We infiltrated their gala, the same kind of glittering rooftop scene where this all began. Guests in gowns and tuxedos laughed over champagne, blind to the rot beneath the crystal chandeliers. But this time, I wasn't the naive girl in love with the wrong man. This time, I was the storm. We moved in silence, Eric covering the exits, Ava in my ear feeding me intel, Nathan at my side despite his healing wound. The plan was simple: expose everything. Every crime, every secret, every thread they thought they'd buried. As I stood at the microphone, cameras flashing, eyes turning toward me, I felt the same chill I did the night Nathan tore me apart. Only this time, I wasn't breaking. I looked straight at his family, their polished smiles faltering. And I told the truth. Every word. About my father. About their empire built on lies. About the blood they spilled to keep their power. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones lit up, live streams spreading every word to the world. And in their eyes, I saw it, the first crack in their empire. But just as victory tasted close, the shot rang out. Nathan shoved me aside. And this time, I didn't know if he'd survive it. Nathan hit the floor hard, his blood spreading fast across the marble. For a second, the whole ballroom froze. Music cut, glasses slipped from hands, gasps turned into screams. I dropped beside him, my hands shaking as I pressed against the wound. "Stay with me." My voice cracked, louder than the chaos around us. "Nathan, don't you dare leave me now." His eyes fluttered, that same stubborn fire flickering even as his strength slipped. "Worth it," he whispered. "If it means you're free." "Shut up. Don't talk like that." My tears blurred his face, but I wouldn't stop. "We're not done, Nathan. Not like this. You don't get to save me and disappear. Not again." Around us, panic broke into full collapse. Security yelling, cameras flashing, his family scrambling as their perfect world burned live on every screen. Eric and Ava covered me, holding back the storm while I clung to him. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. I knew the moment they arrived, everything would change. The truth was out there, spreading faster than they could bury it. The empire was cracking. But all I cared about was the man bleeding out in my arms. Nathan's lips brushed my ear, weak but clear. "Tell me, you forgive me." The words stabbed deeper than the bullet ever could. My chest tightened, my breath caught, and for a moment, I hated him for asking. Hated him for leaving the choice in my hands. I leaned closer, my voice breaking. "I don't forgive you. Not yet. But I'm not letting you go either." His eyes closed, a faint smile ghosting across his face. And then the medics were there, pulling him from me, rushing him onto a stretcher. I stumbled back, my hands stained red, my body shaking. Eric caught me before I hit the ground. Ava pressed her forehead against mine, whispering, "It's over. You did it." But I knew better. It wasn't over. The family would fight, even as their walls crumbled. The world would spin their lies, even with the truth out. And Nathan, his fate hung by a thread. As the sirens swallowed him and the flashing lights carried him away, I stood in the wreckage of everything I thought I knew. My heart was torn, my soul raw, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid. Because I wasn't the broken girl they tried to bury. I wasn't the pawn in their game. I was the one holding the match. And their empire was already on fire.